Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating and honestly wild economic evolution of the music industry. We so often think of music strictly as an art form, but behind all that magic is a massive, complex economic engine. We're going to unpack the history of that engine and then zoom in on a micro case study that will absolutely change how you view the record business.
So, how exactly did the music business go from ancient Greek poets to a literal billion-dollar garage startup? It's a massive question, right? I mean, it's so easy to just assume the music business was invented alongside the phonograph, but the reality, artists have been navigating commerce, wealthy patrons, and complex distribution networks since antiquity.
Because actually, music has been a tradable economic good for millennia. Take the ancient Greek poet Pindar, back in the 5th century BCE. This guy wasn't just a lyricist. He was basically an early entrepreneur. He choreographed dances, staged performances, and was commissioned by wealthy patrons, essentially inventing the artist-for-hire model thousands of years before Spotify even existed. He famously sent over 470 lyrics from his hometown all the way to a tyrant in Sicily. Talk about an early distribution network.
And from Pindar, we can actually trace the whole history of music through 5 distinct economic eras. For centuries, we were stuck in the era of patronage, funded entirely by nobles and the church. Then, the 1800s brought the era of publishing, which finally commodified sheet music. The 1920s sparked the era of broadcasting via radio, but the era that truly supercharged the modern industry and paved the way for the digital world we live in today was the 4th, the era of recorded music. Which brings us to Section 1, the recorded music era, a case study in growth. Okay, picture this. It's 1962. A musician named Herb Alpert and a promotion man named Jerry Moss each throw in exactly $100. That tiny $200 pool of capital, that formed a partnership that became A&M Records. They just wanted a viable alternative to the rigid, stuffy corporate giants of their day, armed with absolutely nothing but a shared ear for great songs. And incredible as it sounds, the actual corporate headquarters for this future absolute titan of industry was quite literally Herb Alpert's West Hollywood garage. No corner offices here, folks. They had a piano, a coffee table, a couch, and 2 phone lines. But it was lean, it was agile, and it was pure entrepreneurial hustle. They could rehearse a song on the piano, turn around, and literally pitch it to distributors on the phone right then and there. But against all odds, their very first major single, The Lonely Bowl, completely exploded on the charts. People actually advised them against starting a whole label around this one single. Well, they told them to just lease the master recording to a bigger company instead, but they refused. They went for broke, and man, did it pay off. Released in late 1962, it netted them a staggering $180,000, selling 700,000 copies. It officially put A&M Records on the global map. That one single sparked a wave of meteoric momentum. Look at this growth. In just a single year, A&M's gross revenue literally 10x'd. It skyrocketed from $500,000 in 1964 to a massive $6 million in 1965. Driven by unstoppable hits like the Tijuana Brass album Whipped Cream and Other Delights, at one point, Herb Alpert's records were moving at a mind-boggling rate of 50,000 copies a day. Let's move into Section 2, the Artist-First Empire, how A&M outperformed the corporate giants. So, you've got to ask, how did a scrappy garage operation actually outmaneuver entrenched corporate machines? Well, it was a classic David versus Goliath setup. Instead of blowing cash on building some massive internal distribution conglomerate, A&M stayed incredibly agile by leveraging a scrappy network of localized independent distributors worldwide. They formed partnerships with folks like Festival Records in Australia and Pi Records in Great Britain. This kept their overhead almost non-existent while rapidly expanding their global reach. Financially speaking, their strategy was just brilliant. They focused heavily on margin expansion through premium formats. While standard vinyl was selling for around $4, A&M aggressively pushed into the tape market with premium products, like the Twin Pack 8-track, selling for almost $10. They didn't just sell music, they diversified the physical formats themselves to create an absolute economic goldmine. And they rode that tape format boom to absolute perfection. By 1970, 8-tracks made up a whopping 75% of their tape sales. But here's where their real genius showed up, the logistics. A&M started aggressively releasing tapes on the exact same day, or at least within a single week, of the vinyl album release. By capturing that immediate consumer hype across all platforms at once, their tape sales essentially doubled year over year. This incredibly independent, agile approach naturally attracted a mind-blowing lineup of generational talent to the label. I mean, we're talking about discovering the Carpenters through a simple demo tape or championing the totally unique Latin pop sound of Sergio Mendes. They weren't out there chasing trends. They simply signed music they actually believed in, giving their artists total, uncompromised freedom.
Because their core philosophy was totally radical for the time. It was all about artistic readiness over corporate earnings. As founder Jerry Moss put it so perfectly, people gave us a record when they were ready. While the corporate giants were out there demanding an album every fiscal quarter just to satisfy their shareholders, A&M actually let their artists breathe. And that patience built unbreakable trust, resulting in far superior music. And this deep commitment to what was basically a family culture, people actually called it a Camelot, wasn't just PR lip service. Former employees constantly recall the warmth, the camaraderie, and the genuine respect they felt working on the A&M lot. When your entire team, from the kid in the mailroom all the way up to your top-selling artist, feels like they are part of a real family, it creates a level of loyalty you just can't buy.
Turns out, that Camelot culture directly translates to capital, because by 1971, A&M was shattering industry records. They officially became the largest independent producer in the whole world. In that single year alone, they racked up an unbelievable 11 gold records. They were completely beating the corporate giants at their own game.
Ultimately, the math really speaks for itself here. That initial $200 garage investment made by two guys who just loved music eventually transformed into an astonishing $1 billion valuation when A&M finally merged into the Universal Music Group empire. Let that sink in. It remains literally one of the greatest returns on investment in entertainment history.
So A&M built this absolute empire on physical formats in a fiercely independent, family-first spirit. But today, well, those physical formats are largely gone, right? We're fully living in the era of the digital music economy. So I want to leave you with this question. Can a modern independent creator replicate that $200 garage magic in a world totally ruled by streaming algorithms? It's definitely something to think about the next time you hit play.